Welcome everybody back to Veil of Sound, and we have something here on the show that I am sure, or unfortunately sure, that not enough people out there will have taken notice of in the last 10, 11, 12 years. I have all three members of E here with me, and we'll come to unfortunate band names in a while. First, I have to ask, how often are you being confused with the lead guy from The Eels?
Oh,
That never confused with, but when we first started, a couple of people wrote in like to, Facebook or whatever when we were promoting shows and said, that name's already taken. That's Jeremy, was it
It's
Engel?
Mark Everett something.
Okay, yeah. Mark Everett. Just back then a little bit, and it was never confused. They were like, you shouldn't use that name, but he doesn't really use that anymore. Is he like?
No. It's also because
So,
he's
yeah,
hardly making any music.
But yeah, we did get that in the beginning, but not very much for a long time.
Yeah. And we should also clue up for all those who do not know the band. Those guys know what they're doing. A lot of you three have a lot of experience on each of your instruments, but maybe for all those uninitiated, we all see the names Thalia, Jason, and Ernie, but maybe you can also quickly say what you do in E. So, and of course, we start with ladies first.
Okay. Well, my name is Thalia Zedek, and I sing and play guitar, and also lately also I have a bass guitar in E, and I'm one of the three writers of the songs in E too.
So then, Ernie, you go next.
I'm Ernie Kim. I'm the current drummer of E. I'm the third in a line of amazing drummers. Not necessarily including myself in amazing, but yeah, I am.
Don't underestimate you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I gotta believe in myself. Anyway, yes. So I joined as a fill-in about 2 years ago, and then right after tour, we started writing together. So I consider that when I'm actually a band. I became a band member, and yeah. So I write the drum parts, play drum parts, jam them out with those guys, and sing, write lyrics, and sing too as well.
Don't you also play the saxophone on?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I play saxophone on a track. Yeah, I mean, yes, you're right. Kind of a skronk saxophone, Yeah.
And Jason, that leaves you. What do you do in this wonderful band?
Yeah, so I'm also, like all of us, I'm vocals on some of the songs, and then I play guitar as well, and I also do some electronics. I have my electronics that make some bass sounds, and other devices. It's sort of an array of devices that interject usually bassy sounds, but sometimes other sounds.
Now, of course, we should also give people some kind of audio comparison for all those who don't know you. And you should, after listening to this video, you should all check out that band. Definitely. People, there are two ways of describing bands. Either you use genres or you use other bands as comparisons. And I chose the latter one. And I have a question. If I described your band as a mixture or crossover between Oxbow, Unsane, and Today is the Day, would you be offended by that comparison? Thalia.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with Today is the Day. I'm familiar with Oxbow, and what was the other one?
Oxbow, Unsane.
Yeah, to me, I'm not hearing it, but I wouldn't be offended by it. I mean, I think we are, especially the new record is pretty heavy in the way that those bands were really heavy. But this, So I guess it could be. I think, yeah, it wouldn't be my reference point, but I would not be offended. I'm not offended.
Yeah.
And then
They're
Ernie,
good bands.
you were looking at my trio of comparisons, and you were a little. If I had you to choose three bands to
Oh
compare
gosh.
your band
Oh
with,
no. No,
yeah,
yeah, mostly I think, when you find on Zoom meetings, you sometimes I feel overly expressive and also had some coffee
all
recently.
cool, all cool. I love
I
that.
mean, geez, I don't know. Please don't ask me this question. Yeah, um I don't know the worst. I think I'm
All
the wrong
cool.
person to ask. I
All
just
cool.
yeah, I don't think about that so much as references. Like in music that I like, and the types of, playing that I reference is, well, I mean, actually it's E because I came in later, so I'm referencing the band that existed before me as opposed to the two founding members, as you see on your screen. But yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I think I'll have to pass. I apologize. Maybe Jason's got some better ideas.
I want to tell an anecdote in response to this
We
question.
love anecdotes.
And that is about 10, maybe 12 years ago, or maybe even a little more, in another band, I had the opportunity to open for Reese Chatham when he was touring with his guitar trio act. And I hadn't previously really been familiar with him. And then I saw him and I was like, wow, I knew immediately how much he had influenced me in a sort of an indirect way, like through other bands and through the whole scene that he was a part of in New York, and the sort of the no wave and minimalism and all of that. So that was like really uh, an interesting moment for me to like hear music that was new to me, but also realize its important, influential, and historical place at the same time.
By the way, the band that you're talking about, was that Neptune?
That was Neptune, yes. Yeah.
I'll also explain why I chose those three very different bands. And the reason is that when I listen to the new record, Living Waters, I have a feeling, first of all, it's always E, that's not the question, but I have a feeling that there is a band which is good and great at their sound and very good at coming up with, for lack of a better word, with different genres. If I listen to, for example, the opener, Fully Remote, that is a track that is very punchy, it's nearly metal. And when I then listen to, for example, the title track, that is very different. It starts off as, I don't know why, but I had a feeling as if I was listening to a bluegrass version of noise rock because of those wonderful melodies. There are some really cool melodies on that track. But then it ends in complete noise, and I love that. So that's why I chose three very different bands. And now my question, I mean, like, I don't want to ask about influences because that's always difficult. But as we have like very different and diverse songs and sounds on the record, is that something that you are looking for? Giving broader soundscapes, embellishing a lot of different genres with your own method in order not to repeat yourself?
I think. Oh, go ahead.
Jason, you go ahead.
No, I was just asking who wants to field that.
Oh.
So then, Thalia, you can start here.
I mean, I'll start out and then everyone can chip in. I think with this record, because so when we first started the band, we started it with a drummer named Alec Tisdale, and we recorded a cassette with him and a single with him. But he left the band pretty early on. When Gavin joined, a lot of the songs on the first record had already been written with Alec, but then so then we kind of came in with Gavin and then developed stuff. And I think that now with Ernie having a new drummer who's a different kind of player and a different personality. I think that, you know, I know that we definitely had discussions about, you know, at least Jason, you know, I remember Jason, you telling me that you felt like we kind of had taken what we were doing on the previous 4 records kind of as far as, you know, like the last record we did, Any Information, that EP was kind of like I don't really want to do one like that. And we definitely did have discussions about kind of pushing through to a new kind of thing. So we were pushing ourselves, you know. Jason was like, I'm doing all this bass stuff with the stomp pedals, and I would like for you and Ernie to take them of the lower frequencies. So I started doing this thing where I'm playing my guitar, 2 of the strings on my guitar sometimes through a octave pedal going into a bass amp. So I'm playing guitar and bass kind of simultaneously. I think Living Waters, like I kind of came up with that riff in response. You guys were like, we want to do something really slow and repetitive, like drone thing. Like I remember I was like, I had gotten really into that song Dope Smoker. Do you know that
Yeah.
song Dope Smoker?
Yeah. Sleep.
Yeah, by Sleep. And I wanted to do like, you know, just kind of like a version of that because the stuff we were writing was pretty, I don't know, intricate. So I mean, that was kind of like, how can we? It was kind of a conscious effort to, not effort, but like conscious in the mind to like do a very repetitive and kind of like slow song. I don't know if it came off that way because it's not that slow. It's definitely repetitive, but you know, with just sort of like a really simple melody and stuff. You know, and then Ernie started singing on it with me, and it kind of turned into this whole other thing. Like now it almost kind of reminds me of Low a little bit, you know, in terms of like the vocals, sort of like the tight harmony. So um I already forgot what the question was. Sorry about
No,
that.
it's just a question. Is it important for you not to repeat yourself?
Um I can get pretty like I have a few different projects. You know, I do tend to repeat myself. I would say I repeat myself. I'm definitely maybe not so much in this project, but I try to hone in on a certain thing, and I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing. So I'm always like trying to perfect like something, like makes something better. And I think Jason comes more from a different school of thought. I'm just saying that because I know his band Neptune would pretty much create instruments for a record, write the record, tour the record, then make new instruments and never do the old songs again. So I think he's more used to like completely a fresh start each time. So it's probably more of his influence. You can correct me, Jason.
I mean, that's true, but I also identify with what you said about trying to hone in on something. I mean, whenever you do anything, whenever I do anything, you sort of like you think about how you could do it in a better way to kind of get to the essence of what you're trying to do, and that's and you never get there. It's a constant evolution. Because it's I don't know, the ideal is an elusive, it's kind of like a mirage in the distance. You're just always trying to get to that oasis, but it's not a real thing that you arrive at.
So then the question, Jason, is the destination the goal, or is the voyage to the destination the goal?
Yeah, the voyage is the goal, I think. Yeah. That's why
Because
we're
the
on
destination
tour.
is unreachable?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think it's just I mean, my formal training is in the visual arts, and we talk about that as being like a process oriented artist. And it's kind of it's a similar mindset or of the same piece, I guess, to just care about the process. And I'm never sure what the product is. We make these records, and that's sort of like, you could say that's the product, but then that in a way is just part of the process that lets us go on tour. And so maybe the tour is the product or the finished, but that's a process also. So there's never an end point.
Yeah, but then the question, sorry to dig on this one, but then the question is, the songs, when you perform them live, are they similar or are they pretty different from what you have
from the recording? I would say they're pretty similar. We tend to work pretty hard on a composition and then stick to it. Though we in preparing for this tour, we've added some of the old material back into the set, and I certainly am feeling kind of looser about it, or liberated in a way to take to make changes and play it in different ways.
Yeah, and that is also something that we should mention when you folks are watching this. We're recording on June 12th. You will be watching this in a few weeks. The guys, you're still in Europe for a long time, aren't you? Like beginning of July, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we leave July 8th. We had to go back. So yeah.
So folks, we will include the tour records or the tour dates for the concerts that will come up after this interview is published. So get a chance and go watch them. And I think you also have, don't you have a second part of a US tour after that?
Yeah, we're home for like 2 days, and then we're doing like 8 more shows, like sort of through mostly the East Coast down to the South and a little bit Midwesty. And yeah.
So we will also include that. And then for our American friends overseas, go ahead, watch them. I have seen some live footage. It is worth an experience. And I have not seen the live footage of the new songs, but the old ones were already impressive, and I'm very sure the new ones will be as well. Thalia, I have a question that concerns you mostly, because going through the press releases for this record, I saw something. You've already said it. You now play a guitar which functions as a bass itself, or in a way, right?
Right.
Is it just my feeling, or is therefore the interaction between you and Ernie much closer? I have sometimes a feeling as if you give his drum kicks, his hits, a little extra punch. Not that he needs it.
I do feel closer to Ernie since I put him to pick up on my guitar. But I think that we do lock in at a bunch, a bunch of points, and it's a different role a little bit. It's like I'm aware of that, of like trying to fill a different role, and instead of being like someone who's always adding melody, of someone who's just kind of like in the groove. It's new for me and exciting for me to do that, and playing with Ernie is a big part of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it works really well.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you do get to see the band and see Thalia doing this, it's like, there's the bass aspect, and simultaneously she is still playing melodic guitar parts, in some certain parts, and it's pretty wild. Like I didn't notice, because playing. I look up and like, wait a minute, you're like still playing your kind of normal guitar parts on the top while hitting the bottom. It's really cool. It's very cool to watch.
How long did it take for you, Thalia, to develop that kind of playing? Because I mean, just like Arnie said, you're basically doing two things at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's other people that have done similar things, like this band in Boston. I will say I was pretty influenced by, so I want to give them credit. A band called Horror Paint, which was was it 3 women or just 2 women? I can't
There's
remember.
three. Yeah, it was
Yeah, 3 women.
Reva.
And the guitar player, she wasn't doing exactly what I did, but she had a regular guitar amp and a bass amp, and she didn't have 2 separate pickups, but I think sometimes she would play bass and sometimes she would play guitar. And so I talked to her a little bit about doing it. And I would say that it really was a process, and I think I do a lot less singing on this record than on previous records. And part of that is because it was taking up a lot of my mind space. So I kind of figured out that like I had to figure out the notes first and then kind of worry about what was going to be played on bass and what was going to be played on guitar. So I would yeah, it's different, it's a different thing, but and I'm still kind of getting the hang of it, but it's not as hard as it sounds, really, because the bass pickup is only on the bottom 2 strings, so it's like it's not it's not it's not that complicated, but it's a little complicated.
Are you still playing a 6-string or are you playing a 7-string?
I'm playing a 6-string. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I messed around like with like, oh, maybe I should play a baritone guitar or like a 6-string bass, because those I've seen those played and it sounds really cool. But I really wanted to still have that sort of guitar interplay with Jason, which I think is important for the band, for our sound. So I decided to just stick with my regular guitar and just change my guitar a little bit. So that's what I did.
What is also very interesting about E is that you are a very productive band. You have more or less released a full length nearly every 2 years, which I think is an amazing process, because if I understood it right, the band is split very much along the states. I mean, like, if I understood it, Thalia, you and Ernie are living on the East Coast, and Jason is living in Colorado. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 2,000 miles. Yeah.
And then I mean, like, I can imagine that between 2020 and 2022, it was very difficult to keep working. Is that first track a reminder of that fully remote?
Yeah, that's a part of it for sure. Yeah. Though, we're not fully remote. I do travel. I do come to Boston, but I when we began the band, I lived in Boston, and so Ernie wasn't playing with us yet, but Talia and I logged up quite a few hours just rehearsing and getting to know each other musically. And now we've evolved this process that there's some exchanging of remote files and ideas that it's very efficient for us. When I'm able to come to Boston, then we can get in for like some long kind of marathon practices, and we have the germs of ideas already, and we can make pretty rapid progress with those.
I mean, like, of course, you say that now you're very efficient at it. How do you still keep the feeling of a band? I mean, like, 2,000 miles apart, you only see each other every so often. How do you still keep that feeling of a band, which is then also audible on some of these tight tracks?
I mean, it's maybe the answer to that is that it's not really fully remote. As the song says, it's there is a lot of in-person work. It's just like really condensed now, because I'll just be in town for a long weekend or something, but we'll spend 6 or 8 hours just going over songs and trying little variations of compositions and trying out different stuff.
Yeah,
but there, yeah, go ahead, Ernie.
No, I was just saying, I wonder if like a part of the efficiency is actually how we jam together, how we improvise together. basically, and we set up the recorder and record a practice, and we're messing around, and we just pull out the parts as they come out, and just Jason and Talia being so used to playing with each other, and I definitely consider myself more of a musician than a drummer, so I'm doing a lot of listening, and I think I'm getting in there and figuring, picking out what they're doing, and I think just their experience, just being so tight musically for a long time, the ideas they really do flow, and they get picked up, and then I kind of edit stuff, and then we listen to stuff, and we pick out stuff, and that's like some of the songs come together really fast, like it's like that kind of magic, so that magical feeling when you just, oh man, like I remember when they first started playing the riff to Clarion, I was just like, it was very, very exciting for me just being back there. And I think it took maybe not that many minutes before that first riff came together. And, I can't speak for you guys, but I knew that this was something that we all were in the room together and put together in this way. And it's just it's going to work. Right. So then you record that, and then maybe what's the next thing? And it's fast, it's, I think, I think that to me, speaks to the efficiency. Pretty much every time you came, we have some pretty, not even just germs, more so sprouts or something, real, not just foundations, but we're building, a couple, thing is pretty, you get some pretty good constructs, not just a little bit, but they grow real fast, and that's, for me, we don't. I think a couple of things, we've, very few things that that those guys have melodically written at home. Well, that's not true, but I feel like a lot of this stuff has just been playing, sometimes just me and Talia, and sometimes it's everybody, but it's just the interplay. Once you have that together, you don't have to work, it just becomes, it feels, that's why I love music. It's just almost magical how it comes together, and we know, and but it's quick too, because of, I think, just how long we've all been playing and how long those guys have been playing together. So,
but you, Ernie and Talia, you do not meet separately and work on stuff also because of this bass guitar thing. You don't do that. You
No,
only
we
get together.
We do. We do that.
That explains the tightness I have.
oh.
Me and Ernie, I'll have some ideas. We'll get together and before Jason comes, and we'll come up with some ideas to send to Jason in preparation for his visit, and Jason will send some ideas to us from Boulder in preparation. So then we'll kind of come together and have these different ideas that we'll work on, see what happens, and then when I think it's really helpful that me and Ernie live in the same city for when it gets time ready to record or to tour, we'll work together a lot on just rehearsing the stuff, getting it tight. So then when Jason comes and joins us, there's a pretty solid foundation there already, that he can fit into.
Yeah. What also is very striking about the record, and I like that a lot, that you have some breathing space in the middle. If you, for example, listen to Deep Swerve, it is a very well done interlude. Is that also in general something that you take care of, that you pay attention to, that there is a certain kind of flow to the track list?
Yeah, I think that we do. That is important to us. We definitely something that we think about, and
it's very important to us. And Ernie, I think, came up with the track list for the record, and Ernie and Talia spend a lot of time discussing set list orders and what works well. And I'm bad at it. I'm generally banned from those decisions.
I thought you were opting out. I didn't realize we were keeping you from.
we'll give you another chance, Jason.
With the next record.
Also just, kind of a secret is not really
What's
secret, but one thing is kind of it's not really secret,
everyone
but
froze.
oh, sorry. Oh, I think, you guys look frozen to me.
Oops.
Oh no, Thorsten's back in the picture.
On your computer.
You can't hear me, can you?
I can hear you.
Okay, I can see you waving. Everyone else is frozen. I guess maybe the Netherlands are experiencing an
Yeah, it's the
outage.
Netherlands.
So now that they're not here, the secret that I was telling was, part of the sequencing was also dictated by the format. A LP, as you get closer to the center,
Yeah.
the record's spinning. I guess the grooves are going by slower, so you lose
Yeah.
some detail and frequency. So, you know, yeah. So that was just a little bit of it, but and also like sequencing a record is real interesting, and because each side is its own little story, but then it's a whole story together. But yeah.
Something that I was wondering, and that also has to do with the track list. I mean, we have Deep Swerve as the 6th track, a very, very good interlude, a very nice breather. And then we get the longest track on the record. We get Living Waters, which is 9.5 minutes. Living Waters itself, how, for lack of a better word, how difficult was it to come up with that track? You've already mentioned you wanted to do something a little bit slower. You've already mentioned Dope Smoker, but then again, 9.5 minutes. How did you come up with that monster of a track? I mean, like, it's by far the longest track on the record.
Yeah. Sorry, I had a little technical difficulty, so I dropped
No
out
problem.
for a minute.
Ernie
You
and I
asked-
noticed that it's the Dutchies.
Yeah.
By the way, we have to mention Ernie is still in the US. I'm in Germany,
Oh
and
yeah.
Jason and Thalia are in the Netherlands at the moment. So it's just the Dutch internet.
Oh man.
Sorry.
So Thalia, you were saying about, like, or you wanted to start about Living Waters and how it came to be.
Right. So we were all together in the rehearsal space, and we'd been talking about having a really, really repetitive kind of drone type piece, writing that. This was like early on in the sort of writing process. And I just came up with that riff and
Uh,
started singing. And
Okay.
that's pretty much it.
So then that is one of those moments of which Ernie said it's like pure magic, right?
Yeah. Like we were all there together, and we had talked about wanting to do something a little different or have a song that's like, I was just kind of like, how about this? And I just started playing it. Yeah.
A thing that to me is very interesting about that track is that we started playing it and we sort of liked it was fun. We liked the feel and the vibe of it. And we knew it worked in a way, but we had a lot of doubts about whether it was sort of like too far afield from the bulk of our other work. And at first the conversations were like, well, let's record it while we're in the studio, and maybe we'll use it for something at some point, but it's
Right,
probably not going to be on the record. And it could be like something we could put on a compilation or something. But then once we sort of got it down, recorded, and then we were just like, oh, I think this is the title track.
Yeah. But when you started out, you were probably not already knowing that this would be a long track. It just became that, right?
Well, kind of like the point of it was, because like the Dope Smoker thing,
Yeah.
it was just to have this, was to have like a kind of, extremely long track in a way, but to see what we could kind of do with it. And it was really different from sort of everything else. So, no, it was always that long. It was probably even longer than on the record, but, yeah, it is kind of, but when you're making vinyl too, it becomes an issue, like track depths and cuts. So we're like, that's kind of why we put it it's the first song on the second side, because as you get closer to the middle, the grooves get smaller, and yeah, so I think and then Ernie named it Living Waters, and I don't remember when we decided to call the whole record that, but I think, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of just kind of happened.
But
I saw it, but
Like we played it. I feel like I remember us playing it right after Clarion, which at the time it was called Secret River, just the jam. So like it just had that flow and feeling of like coming out of that like kind of dark moving feeling of like a fast river into this like
yeah, like a
opening
dark
up to
flowing
me
water.
into this sunny like shimmering like that's that's the only I mean that's one of the reasons why I named it. I guess I came up with a name. It's funny. I think at
Something
one
that is,
point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
you go ahead, Jordan, you go ahead.
Oh no, I remember when Jason was talking about what do we do with this song? I think in the studio, Andy Hung, he actually at one point suggested it's like, oh, you should have just like a single song 12-inch record and like put the alternate version on the other side, and it was kind of we entertained that for a little while, just having like a single track. Would have been pretty interesting, but
What is also very interesting about the record, and that is of course something that you hear on basically all of VE records, are Jason's vocals. And I always have a feeling when listening to you, I have a feeling of listening like the dark twin somewhere of Jazz Coleman or Nick Cave. So this dark post-punkish kind of tone. Is that something where you say like, okay, that is an influence on me? Cave, Coleman, maybe even somebody like Steve Till?
A little bit, I would say. I would point to and this is going to sound like musically very far afield, but one of my very favorite artists is Laurie Anderson. And just the way that she sort of uses a combination of speaking and singing. And I guess another big influence is early on in Neptune. It was sort of the early 90s and kind of grunge era, and I was sort of like screaming the vocals more, as was the style in that era. And my mom came to a concert, and she was always very supportive, and she came to a concert, and afterwards she said, Jason, that was just wonderful, but why do you scream like that and so loud? And I sort of opened my mouth, and I didn't have a solid answer for it. And I realized, you know what, what is that really my voice? Or that's just the voice of the moment. And then I thought about it a lot, and I sort of came up with this delivery that was more just a little more like flat, less like trying to be over the top, but also with typically there's sort of a little bit of a creepiness that I'm going for.
Yeah, there is a certain darkness. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Even though there is this certain kind of darkness, there is also something that I like about Living Waters, about the record. It has a certain urgency. It sounds as if like, okay, we have something to say, and we have to say it now, and we have to say it in this way. Is there something where you say like, okay, yeah, that had to come out right now?
Yeah, I mean, we do. I feel urgent about it. I was like really ready to. There's all sorts of reasons for that. I mean, there's that Ernie joined us in 2022, but he was just playing old songs that he learned, and it was time to like unleash Ernie's songwriting on the world. So I thought that was really important. I think actually our remote status, my remote status, I think that lends a certain urgency, because when I do get to Boston, we're like, okay, let's do it. So that's part of our urgency. And then also I think just coming out of COVID and wanting to just reclaim life, reclaim living life,
Mhm.
is also part of the urgency. So there's a lot of factors converging there, I think.
Let me guess, that also then factors in you doing a rather large and a rather long tour, right? Like, okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
I have two more questions left before we come to our infamous quickfire round here. And the first one is for all of you guys. All of you guys at one point or another, and also in E, we've already mentioned it, you seem to have a knack for strange band names, right? I mean, like Neptune. There is a band called Neptunes. I don't want to know how often that was misspelled. We'll talk about Come in a moment, but I think Mr. Kim here took the crown, because looking up his Discogs page, you participated in several recordings of something that was called Harry and the Potters.
Oh no. Yeah. They have a Wikipedia page if you're interested. They've been featured in Rolling Stone little bits, and so they're these guys. So I was in this band Tristan da Cunha
Yeah.
for years, and that's not an unusual name. It's kind of, has that kind of like slightly pretentious early 2000s indie rock post-punk sound name. But Mike, just so one of he was a DJ. Paul DeGeorge was a DJ at WMBR Tufts radio station, and he had us on, and we became friends. And him and his little brother was supposed to have a show in their shed. I think Joe at the time was maybe like 13 or something. He was still in middle school, and I think they had to cancel it for some reason. So instead, they put on these robes and they wrote these songs like in that afternoon about Harry Potter, which, because of the whole, I mean, at the time, we didn't know about J.K. Rowling, but the whole, cultural phenomenon of like, all these kids are just like, yeah, I want to see that. So they recorded these songs like on a 4-track, and they just didn't have drums, and they're just like, hey, do you want to play drums to these songs? And it was kind of difficult, and because they had recorded them already, and I'm trying to play along. I'm not the best timekeeper, but it just started happening that they started playing at libraries because the book thing, and then
Yeah.
I think so basically, yeah, if you look them up, it's like kind of part of it is actually quite wonderful, like they're like lots of kids, their first rock show, him, Paul and Joe, like Joe was like an amazing performer, like he's jumping around, tearing off his shirt, fighting a giant snake on stage, and like they still play, like I think every Christmas they have like a Yule Ball kind of thing. I'm not sure if they still do it. They may have, maybe it was, yeah. But like, yeah, they had like thousands of people in Harvard Square for like, I think one of the book releases, the last book release. They've toured like heavily, done library tours across the US, and they played like in Europe a bunch. And yeah, so that's that band. I was just the drummer in that band, and I got to go on tour a little bit. I think at one point they're like, hey, do you want to quit your job and go on tour? I'm like, no thanks. But yeah, that was a phenomenon, man. Like, it's like there's a movie called We Are Wizards that's all about like the kind of Harry Potter fandom. It's wild, and but just like they really made kind of kids who are into books and maybe are look at whatever, like people who are musicians, and they became musicians. They saw it as something they could do. So and also like at this point they're very vocal about J.K. Rowling's kind of backwards views about
Yeah, it's a very
trans folks and stuff. But like but I think they've done a lot of good. But that's that band, silly, fun, and kind of it really kind of inspiring. I bet it gave a lot of kids changed their lives. So
and then Thalia, I have one for you, because of course we should mention. Oh, you have already mentioned your former band Come, which surprisingly I saw in Europe 25 years ago. My goodness, or nearly 30 years ago. But what I liked about it was that you were one of those indie rock bands that more or less everybody could relate to. And I have seen that there have been a few Come releases over the last 2 or 3 years. There was a Gun Club cover 7-inch. Okay, it was live recorded 30 years ago, I know, but There was something else that came out in 2022. We will probably never get a Come reunion, right?
Well, we had so yeah, the Chunklet magazine put out some recording of a night that we actually called ourselves the Come Club and did all
Yeah.
gun club covers. We were huge gun club fans, but so all our records are all being reissued by Fire Records. We've been
Yeah.
touring around the reissues. They started with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because 1111 was still under contract to Matador at that time. Then they did Near Life Experience. Then they did the double album, Gently Down the Stream. And then just this past year, in April, actually, 1111 got reissued by Fire Records. So, and we were doing some touring around each reissue just to promote it, let people know that they were out and stuff. But so, yeah, that's probably as far as it's going to go. Like, there's no plans for a new record or, new material or anything like that.
I thought so. But I want to take this Come Club release as like a last final question before we come to the quickfire round.
Okay.
You've covered only Gun Club that night, and now let's turn it around. Imagine you could choose somebody covering a track from the new record. Who should cover which track? And we're going to start with Thalia, because I don't know if Jason can still hear us.
Alex.
Yeah, sorry. I just had
No
to
problem.
step away for a moment.
So
Did you have
let's
yeah.
let's think about it. Come covered the Gun Club. Let's think of who should cover E. Thalia, who would you like to do a cover of one of the tracks on Living Waters?
Okay. On Living Waters, let me see.
Hard question.
I know. Never said this was going to be easy, folks.
Oh, geez.
I would always
I think-
start off
okay.
with whom I would like to do a cover, or who should do a
I
cover.
think
Mhm.
that Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds should
Okay.
cover Ash.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be a good choice. I can see that.
Yeah.
Mr. Kim, Mr. Sanford?
actually, I was thinking that I would like Neptune actually to cover Post Perfect Conditional, because I think I read a review being like, oh, it's almost like disco. I'm like, oh no, I meant for it to be a bashy thing. And I could just imagine Dan Boucher just like creaming that part, just destroying it in a way that I'm not physically capable of. That sounds kind of like a cop out, but just that the power that he brings, and that real urgency. Yeah, sorry if that's kind of cheating.
That's okay.
No, it's not cheating at all. Like it's a completely different
Yeah, that's
band,
what I
totally
said.
different
It's
sound.
okay.
Yeah,
I like
and then I bet Mark could sing it too, Jason. Do some
Jason.
songs, but
Yeah.
Now, don't say you want Harry and the Potters covering one of the tracks.
No,
That is
I don't have a specific band in mind, but I when you said that, I just the thing that popped into my head was that I'd like to hear some kind of jazzy versions.
yeah.
I don't
yeah.
know if that's like super cheesy, but these are like they're like such rock songs for the most part. It would be really nice to hear just a little jazz combo doing them in a more relaxed, loose way, to kind of hear some of those melodic exchanges in a different way.
Yeah, I can see that. So, Ms. Zedek and the two gentlemen, first of all, thanks for all the insight into the record, but nobody leaves the Veil of Sound interview without having to go through the quick fire round at the end. All three of you will get the same questions. It's always something like, okay, what do you like more? AC versus DC, the Jets versus the Giants, Florida versus California. I don't know. You know what I mean. You get the gist.
Yeah.
And let's start off with something easy. Who would you rather watch? live in a stadium? The New England Patriots or the Boston Red Sox?
Red Sox.
Patriot.
Red Sox.
Ernie?
Red Sox.
I cannot live with any of the answers. I don't like either of them, but okay.
Oh, man.
Nah, it's just in football, the Patriots
You
just,
set us
I
up
don't know.
to fail.
Yeah,
What?
I know, right?
I said you set us up to fail.
Yeah, no. Your choice is totally valid. But I thought, first I thought like, okay, do I give him something from Denver versus something from New England? And then I was like, nah, they're going to choose New England anyway. So I chose New England versus New England.
You said the Celtics in there. There might have been a different answer, but
you interestingly, one of you has already, I think it was Thalia, who has already mentioned one of the bands on my next couple. Codeine versus Low. Some slowcore.
Ooh,
low.
Low.
yeah, low.
Oh,
Sorry, Chris.
you don't have to say it as if it's here. You cannot.
Oh,
go
no,
wrong.
no, just because we know.
Chris
Okay, well,
Prokop will never
actually, you know-
forgive me for this.
Yeah, exactly.
I
That's,
You
it.
totally
That's why I
destroyed,
said
you
it.
just destroyed a 40-year friendship.
Wow, you really are setting us up, man.
Oxbow versus Unsane.
Unsane.
Oxbow.
I'm not familiar enough with both of them. I've seen Oxbow and it was great. So, but my wife is a big Unsane fan, so I would say Oxbow just because I've seen them. I'm a little more familiar.
But you're sure that she's an Unsane fan, not an.
Oh, she likes
NSYNC
both of
fan.
them. Yeah, no, she's both. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But you're asking me. I don't know.
I'm not sure if I get an answer out of you with the next couple because it's both bands that, yeah, performed way back in the 80s and 90s. Dazzling Killman versus the Minutemen.
I mean, I'm not familiar with the Dazzling Hillman. Sorry, but Minutemen,
Yeah, me
you know,
neither.
but Minutemen, you know, just that'd be amazing. I mean,
Is
Yeah.
that
possible, but amazing.
yeah?
For me.
Same. I'm not familiar with anyone but the Minutemen, but they're amazing. The Minutemen.
And the next one is basically one for Jason, as we know that he liked and likes to build instruments, so to speak. Neubauten versus Throbbing Gristle.
Neubauten.
Mm-hmm. And the other two?
Same for me. Neubauten.
I can't answer them. I'm too ignorant of the work of both.
Don't
Tony-
worry.
Tony Conrad.
What do you mean, Talia?
He said Tony Conrad, but I guess he wasn't part of the question.
If he was part of the question, yeah. So, lady and gentlemen, first of all, thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your stay here in Europe, and then, of course, the second part of the tour in the States. For everybody out there, listen to Living Waters. The record is already out, and there's basically no excuse not to do so. If you have a heart for well-made noise rock, you should check out that record. So for all three of you, thanks for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you very much,
Torsten.
Torsten.
Yeah.
This was really fun.
It's really
Thank
you
fun.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.